Loud. All right. Hello, Wyoming. Welcome to this month's free webinar. I posed some of these topics to several of you of the 5 nursing homes that are in the project each year more intensively, and one of you picked this topic, and that's why we're doing it. So welcome to going deeper into the details of individuals' lives. I think it's pretty cool personally, and I'd love to know what you think. Of course, I want to thank your survey agency said yes to the CMP grant. The regional office of CMS also said yes. We call it Implementing Culture Change Throughout Wyoming, affecting both resident-directed living and team member retention. Trying to move in that direction, move to talk about more about life than care, and who should it be directed by, the person living it, and the ideas of changing culture, everyone, tend to translate into staff who like that and they tend to hang out or come to work there. So something to watch. We tend to see retention in the research. And in fact, the first homes that were in the first year of this project, guess what? Turnover went down. And even though turnover was high, that part's hard, but there was COVID, turnover actually went down slightly. Now, I've also been asked to be very careful to give a lot of easy ideas in today's day and age with everything happening. And to be honest, most culture change ideas are very easy and doable, but I am paying attention to that as we move forward. I want you to grab a hold of something that's practical and easy and simple. And all these ideas do not cost money. So have you noticed details tend to get missed? And I'd love to ask you all, I'll tell you a story, and then I'd love to see if it prompts you and tell me a story. Can you think of a story about a person you serve living in the nursing home that some details got missed and then you learned them kind of the hard way, or something happened and then you had to unravel what happened and, oh, that's why. Here's an example. How many of you have served someone who gets on the floor a lot? Oh, they're on the floor again. Was it a fall? There's no injury. They get on the floor. And then perhaps with family or in a care conference, you find out, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you, mom likes to get on the floor. So has that ever happened to any of you? You could unmute and tell me. Hello, Life Care of Casper, welcome.
Hi, Carmen. I will actually say we've had a couple people who get on the floor and will clean or pick up, little pieces of paper or whatever falls on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely had our share of people who you just can't seem to keep off the floor, and sometimes that's just where they want to be.
Yeah, that's my point. It's actually like going there on purpose, right? So Amanda, have you ever run into that? And sublet team?
This is Amanda, and we have one particular resident currently who loves to exercise, and he was found numerous times on the floor before anybody figured out what was going on and that he was actually just exercising. And so we have knee pads for him when he does it as our intervention and stuff to help prevent skin tears on him and stuff. But yeah.
Thank
and then
you.
I have, I even have a dietary one where I have a resident who never ate large meals. She never sat down to a family meal, and she was a snacker. And so we've had to readjust some of our thinking with her because of that even.
Thank you.
But it took a little while to figure that out.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? A story coming to mind?
Well, to the key point of just kind of, are there ever moments you have to work in reverse? One of the things that we frequently find is that in our first care plan, we are talking about kind of understanding that this is a time of getting to know each other, and really figure out what each other needs and how we can meet those needs. And kind of, one of the things we always say is, we're going to make mistakes because we're learning you and growing with you. And as we do that, we will adjust and change. So I would say that, almost always there's a moment of learning and growing and knowing a person. And You know, some of the things like, for example, our social worker will frequently try to get us together to meet kind of ahead of time. And sometimes those things are challenging because they don't work in our flow, but frequently very supportive to kind of that first knowing of a person. So,
Beautiful.
so yeah, I mean, I think that that is true across the board.
Yeah. Was that Laura talking? That's Laura, right?
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Laura. That's well said. Beautifully said, actually. We do need a time of knowing, a time of getting to know one another. And these are just ideas today of maybe speeding it up, to be honest. And you take anything that fits. Maybe you do some of this already. But I've just noticed in my career that getting on the floor is kind of an example. And I would challenge you all, how could you find that information out before someone moves in? It's so interesting. It's just like a challenge. Is there a way to flip some of these things and be more proactive and find out more things ahead of time instead of behind the time? Could it save time? Could it save a lot of fall investigation? Would your current assessment process discover that someone has a habit of getting on the floor? I've learned it's kind of a good litmus test, if you will, or not. And if not, could you include it? And then I looked up the word assessment. It means evaluation or estimation of the nature, quality, or ability of someone or something. And I just wanted to think about that word assessment. It's used a lot in our business. To me, it feels institutional. I don't know about you. I've always wondered, do we have to use that word? Is there a better word? And when I looked this up, I realized, some things can be evaluated easier than others. Like you can really evaluate if someone can walk or not. But does the word still fit when it comes to who I am? And see, that's kind of what we're getting at here. If someone likes to get on the floor, likes to exercise on the floor, isn't that interesting? We tend to miss it. Why is that? Perhaps the questions we're asking are more focused on those things that we can evaluate easier. I don't know. Would love to know in a little bit what you guys think, add to this thinking. And then, like you, I've looked at lots of assessments in every area, every discipline, which is kind of odd, to be honest. I just thought of that. We have a disciplinary dietary assessment, right? And then we have nursing or more physical ADL assessment. But what the culture change movement has pointed out is we're breaking apart a person. Maybe we can never do it differently, but it's just something to think about. Maybe that's adding to the problem. And then sadly, a lot of our assessments, in my observation, simply mimic the MDS. Now, there's a reason for that. You got to dig deeper with those MDS questions. Okay, then what? You like to go outside. Okay, when? How often? What do you like to do out there, right? But sadly, we tend to not go much further than what the MDS prompts us to do, is what I've seen. And I look at a lot of forms, assessments, and I kind of am left with, but who is she? Have any of you ever felt that? Like there's check marks, done.
Yes.
But who is she? Yeah. So I kind of want to call that out. We can do better than that. And I would love to. So here's a fun thing I'd like to ask all of you to do right now. If you could find some sort of paper anywhere, the back of something, and start writing your very own care plan. And that's all I'm going to say. The rest is up to you. I'm admitting a few people, so if you wouldn't mind letting me catch up with some names here. You go ahead and start writing your care plan.
I have this. I just
Welcome, Sotea. Welcome, Paula. Welcome, Cindy. Right now, what we're doing is I'm asking you to start writing your very own care plan. And you're not going to hand it in or anything, but I'm going to go on and then I'm going to come back to this. So you can stop right now with a sentence or two, or you can just keep going if you want while I'm talking. And then I'll come back to it. Okay. It's so fun. All right. An easy idea from me to you, costs no money. Actually, it's from a friend of mine named Kim. Kim took care of her mom. Have any of you guys ever taken care of someone in your home? And when it was time for mom to move, she moved to assisted living first. We have a family member on the line, Paula. You might relate to this, but many might. When it was time for mom to move to the assisted living, notice we don't say discharge from her house. There's some language you can change if you want. And she moved into the assisted living. My friend Kim naturally wrote down everything she felt the new team caring for her mother would need to know. How amazing is that? Now, maybe that's happened to you. If so, lucky you, right? And if not, guess what you could start asking for. So let me unravel that a little bit. So Kim did it on her own. What a gift. Wouldn't that be a gift if family handed you, here's everything you need to know about my mom? And you could start asking for that. Now, I like to start with the person, of course. I don't want to dismiss the person themselves first. If they could do that, tell you everything they feel you need to know about them better, right? And then I just want to say, of course, maybe not everyone can write it out. And so now what if you just, like, no forms, everybody, you start asking people, tell us everything we need to know about you. And do you suppose you might get different information if you did it like that? Would anyone respond to that? And have any of you done that before?
It's Brittany, Carmen.
Hi, Brittany.
So I know everybody does like a 48-hour meeting, when your new community members come in to their new home, and everybody's trying to get to know them, and everybody says, oh, I'm going to come do an assessment. I'm going to come do this assessment. We slow that down just a little bit in ours, and everybody's there for that 48-hour meeting. And we encourage the families to be there, obviously, and all of those things, and really just try to have a conversation with them rather than throw everything, at them and then require information to fill the forms. We want them to open up and visit with us.
Good.
Tell me, what does your mom like to do in the morning? What's her favorite, drink with breakfast? Does she like to, crochet in the evening while she watches TV? Whatever it is that they want to offer up.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. So you're kind of doing this at the 48-hour. And like Laura so beautifully articulated, you're going to keep doing it. There's a time period to get to know each other. I've been very honored to have a lot of different experiences in my life. And I got to co-author a book and do a training DVD that we called Soften the Assessment Process. And it's available if anyone wants it. I don't mean to advertise my stuff, but we kind of just bring attention to the first week of moving in and what's normal and what's not normal. And we use the word soften as a mnemonic device. So we go into supporting simple pleasures. That's my favorite part. Offering options, creating more choice for people, fostering friendship, tying into the tasks we all have to do, but without making that the focus. Equalize everyone. That's the idea that we're all adults, equal, not staff versus residents, let's say, kind of an old way of thinking. And to normalize, to always make it more normal. And so my favorite part is this, ready? Would you rather get to know someone over a clipboard or over coffee? And it's just helped me really realize kind of what you just said, Brittany. Now it's at a meeting with everyone, right? But maybe considering before the meeting, some of you, if you haven't done this already, to consider just going to have a cup of coffee or going to have lunch together. So let me ask you all who might be willing to answer this. When a new neighbor moves into the neighborhood, how do you get to know a new neighbor if you really want to get to know them?
I bring them baked goods.
Oh my gosh, someone still brings baked goods? No way.
Yes, way.
No way.
I
That
do
is
Christmas cookies too.
That is a dying art, everyone. Would you agree?
Yes, I was just gonna say, we don't get to know them anymore.
Oh,
You
way to
don't
go.
ring on somebody's doorbell unless you're FedEx or these days. Amazon deliveries only.
Yeah, thank you. I just love thinking about this, you guys. Let's call it out. You're right. I'm guilty too. Like, we just don't do what we used to do. And it's kind of a reminder, we all could be doing this. We could still take over the baked goods. We could invite them over, you know? So that's the point here. If we get to know someone, it's maybe over, I want to say like a beer over the fence, a beer maybe, right? You see the idea of getting to know people in a normal way. And if you're not doing that, that could be fun. We also promote in this, you know, actually like expecting someone the day they move in. Don't let anyone move in and feel not expected. And someone's waiting for them. Isn't that amazing when you feel that someone's expecting you and they know your name and they offered you what might happen next, giving you choice at the same time. And the idea here is to maybe say, well, we thought maybe you could have lunch with, fill in the blank, whoever of you on your team could have lunch with someone and kind of slowly help them meet people. We have this plan if it works for you, and trying to get at this idea of normalization.
So one of the things that came up for us after our last meeting, the team got a little excited about that idea. So some of them initiated that, but actually CMS came out, we're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to sit and have lunch with people, with our residents anymore. We can't, you know, so, I mean, that's one of the challenges we're coming up against is kind of culture change versus COVID. I mean, we're really not, you know, we had this kind of moment where in fact, many of the team members kind of were so excited and took initiative. And then our new mandates came out this last week. Some of the people on this may have looked at that and felt some discouragement, because the truth is we cannot do that. Like, we're even all kind of sitting around as I'm looking at us, and the only one who's truly behaving right now you can't see in view, and it's Jen, and she has her mask on. Like, the three of us that are sitting by each other are not, you know, I mean, I actually need to do that, right? According to where I'm supposed to be. So in this space, that is some of our challenges. Love the other stuff. Love the idea of making sure someone knows we're expecting them and how can we find ways to do that. But that was one of the things we found that was kind of discouraging.
Yeah, I would just encourage anyone listening, try not to think of it as culture change versus COVID, because COVID is a thing that's hurting all of us in many different ways. And there was life before and there will be life after. So just think of it as on pause. Don't let it get you down, and maybe go with the other things that you can do. And so next I'll show you just something I've always found interesting. The title of these regs is Comprehensive Assessment, Comprehensive Person-Centered Care Plan. So what does comprehensive mean? Again, it's just like motivation for, are we finding out everything? Are our assessments really complete, including all or nearly all elements of aspects of something? So this whole idea of getting into the details. Now, something else I've noticed through the years, everyone, is, we ask people, what's your routine? Like Brittany, you just brought that up. What do you like to do for breakfast? What do you like to do in the evening? And I hope when you guys ask, you actually then also are able to deliver. In our culture change movement, we just kind of called it out. We ask a lot of questions, but how does it make the person feel if we don't honor their preferences? Something to think about. So what happens next? And typically, maybe this is better in all of your homes, I hope, but typically it could feel like, well, that's nice that was your routine, but it's not anymore. Just something to be aware of, and something really fun to do. If we were all together, I should do this in August when we have our big workshops. You all could do this with each other. It's a powerful training tool. You write down what your morning routine is, your personal morning routine. And you can say on a work day or not on a work day, it's up to you. Doesn't matter. And then you let people write. When they're done, you switch. You go, okay, I want you to switch with someone. And here's your new schedule. And it's pretty powerful for us to wonder what it'd be like to not have your schedule. So would anyone speak to that? Like, have you ever been traveling and, oh my gosh, you did not get the same schedule? And how does it go for you?
Hey, Carmen.
Yeah. Hey, Brittany.
So here, let me be the weirdo. Um, anybody else have a weird potty schedule when you travel? I mean, you either go all the time because your body's stressed and your routine's weird, or you can't go at all.
Yeah.
And then you try to do that. I've got a 3-year-old at home. You try to do all of those things on their, just on a potty schedule, just to try to make sure that you stop every 45 minutes to take a tiny person to the bathroom, let alone all of the other things that you throw off for them. It just is, it's crazy what little changes can do to you.
Yeah, it's just an interesting way to think about it, and maybe motivation to move in this direction. And then that has always taught me, looking at all of this, that another way to think about changing that institutional culture to be more of the culture that honors the individuals who live there. Another set of words you could play with if you want is what we call seamless living. Like when you move in, your life should remain your life. That could be a huge challenge to all of us, to do that as much as possible. All right, another question for all of you. Have you ever been to a funeral or read in an obituary something you didn't know about someone who lived in your home? Has that ever happened to any of you?
We actually had a staff member who passed away during COVID, from COVID. And at her funeral, we all learned that she was a Trekkie.
And you didn't know?
None of us had any idea.
Yeah.
So it's not just your community members, it's also your team members.
Yeah. That's a quite a powerful story, huh? So
Okay, Carmen, it's Jen. I don't know if
hi,
you
Jen.
guys can see me if we're on video or
Hi,
not.
Jen.
I have the world's worst story to share with you, but it speaks to your point. When I was in my 20s, I went to my grandmother's funeral, and I had been at her house for about 3 months taking care of her, and I found her to be very accomplished, very skilled, all the things. People recognized her. They had a Compass Rose at an airport named after her because she was so fantastic. But every experience I had had with her kind of left me feeling terrible. She was just very cutting. And at her funeral, droves of people showed up to tell how kind and generous and how she had given them money or changed their world or brought them things. And she was just the light and the salt that you hear about people being in the Bible. And I thought, my goodness, how sad I'm her kin, flesh and blood. And I found her to just be one of the most toxic people I'd ever encountered. And so here at her funeral, everybody's telling us what a saint she is and how she made the absolute difference in their world, and that their life would have been so much worse had they not encountered her. And I thought, gosh, it would have been nice to have that lady in my life for 5 minutes. And she had 20 some odd years, and I didn't get 5 minutes of that. So, I mean, it's a terrible story. It's not the kind that you typically share, and I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but it was eye-opening to me that, hey, if the people that you are kind of expected to be the closest and most wonderful to have one impression of you, it really doesn't matter what any other person there thought, because they were all there in hopes to bring family comfort and joy. So, my dad, my siblings, and my cousins, and all the other people sitting there, with me at her funeral were genuinely in shock, because our encounters with her never left us feeling more wonderful. Jen, and I know that's the rarity. Most people find out good things about somebody and they feel so relieved. And the rest of us were just kind of shocked, like, who was this woman?
Well, Jen, I'm sorry. And no, seriously, I have the same issue in my family. It's a different webinar, right? And it's a lesson for all of us. Like, how are we with our family compared to with others?
Sure. It teaches you to really be the same person to everyone, and to be as wonderful as you can.
Yeah, that's right. Especially your family. And that's biblical. They should come first. Now, can anyone think of a different word? I've just always been curious. If we didn't use the word assessment, is there a better word to get at the details of someone's life? Any word come to anybody? And if not, I have thought of one. I'd love to know what you think of this word. And the word is simply discovery. There's a leader in the culture change movement. Some of you might have heard Lorraine Norton during our March Madness. And she always talks about discovering who a person is. I think she even talked like that when she taught us about the learning circle, that even sitting in a circle and watching someone, you discover. Do any of you remember that? I think, Brittany, you were there. She's like, to watch how people talk and use their hands and their face helps you discover more about each other. And so just for fun, just for fun, I'm tossing out a different word. When we want to change institutional ways, sometimes a different word can help. And so, use it if you want. But I just want to speak to the idea of doing a discovery and see if we even change words, maybe it'll help us to do differently. And here's a story that actually comes out of Lorraine Norton's work. She's kind of like the mother of the household model. And maybe she told the story. You'll have to remind me. But I've always loved it because it proves the point about details of people's lives. So there was a man who was a professional comedian, and then he had the dementia, and the team members asked the family to give them all his jokes. And so they learned the jokes, but they never told the punchline. They set the person up, and then he, even with the dementia, always told the punchline. Isn't that fabulous? And so I want to start bringing this into care planning. What if your care plan started to say, I was a professional comedian and I enjoy still telling my jokes. All team members are asked to learn the jokes. They're typed out, they're posted in his room or whatever, in the closet, wherever. Set him up with the main part, but let him have the punchline. He always does it. And then a similar idea would be, what if everyone knew that there's a joke book in his room in addition to his jokes, because he loves humor. And maybe there's a yellow sticky note on the last, what indicating which joke is the next joke. And maybe the care plan, shares with every team member, ask the next joke out of the joke book in his room when you're with him. And now we are really getting to some interesting details of people's lives. So let's go back to your care plan, everyone. Would anyone be willing to read me a couple lines off your care plan?
I'm driving, so I didn't do that part. Sorry,
okay.
Carmen.
Thanks, Brittany, hon. Amanda, would you be so bold?
I will. So
Thank you.
I started with, Amanda is allergic to caffeine, peanut butter, and chocolate.
Did you say allergic to?
Yes.
Okay, wait, caffeine and chocolate and what else?
Peanut butter.
Oh, you poor dear.
It's only like 80% of desserts. I still have caramel. We're good.
Wow. 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 Okay. Yeah, go on.
Because food allergies, of course, I'm in dietary too, but food allergies are a huge concern for me because obviously I have them myself. I have a child with them. So I fully understand the impact of them. And then I also, my next sentence before I stopped was that I'm sociable. I like to talk to anybody that will listen to me. Whether anybody listens or not, I will still talk.
Love it.
And I'm sure I will be that way when I'm 80 years old.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Amanda. This is priceless. And may I hear from someone else? And then we'll make just a couple observations, okay? Did anyone else? Maggie, did you write it? Cindy, your care plan.
I can share. Carmen, this is Sotia.
Thank you, Sotia.
My care plan would say about me is that, Sotia, she is not a morning person, and she does not enjoy eat breakfast. That's not her most important meal. So So I think with that, for me personally, it's
Yep.
very important, to know that about me, because one, do not wake me up for breakfast, because, we talk about the open dining room, and I know even my facility kind of talk about that as well. Because sometimes, our staff like, yep, breakfast at from 7 to 9. So, so for me, it's important for any people who take care of me to know that, because I do not want to be awake doing those time and stuff, because I don't,
Yep.
not a morning person, nor do I
Good.
eat breakfast.
Perfect.
So,
So Taya,
yeah.
that's a director of nursing talking to everybody. Isn't that fantastic? This
Yes.
is exactly what I want to get at, everyone. We're all so different. We all have different priorities. Do any of us ever ask someone what's a high priority for you? So Amanda, you would say allergies, right? So Taya, you see what reveals itself with your own care plan? This is what it tends to be. It's not a perfect science, right? But it tends to show up what is important to someone. All I told you was to start writing your care plan. Isn't that interesting? And we all jump to what's most important, probably. And I'm kind of like you, Sotea. I am so adamant about getting good sleep. Please do not wake me up. I've already got it written. Basically, my family, they know, and I love advocating for people to get more sleep. How
Right.
dumb is it? How dumb is it that we wake people up and we deprive them of the most healthy thing we could actually give them? And then, so thank you for raising that, and thank you for changing that in your culture. And so you guys get the point. Just start asking people, what would they say their care plan is? Or perhaps you could voice it like, what are we missing? I wonder if that's a good question. What are we missing about you? And remember my idea, I just call it filling in the gap. You're going to get a lot more ideas if you ask the person to tell you, or to write down, or the family to tell you or write down everything that you need to know to take great care of someone. And then see, there's no limits, there's no forms, there's no blank spaces. Oh, it's so good. All right, I got to keep rolling. Just want to show you some stuff here from the regs. Did you know that CMS now has some pretty cool words at the assessment reg? And here they come. These were not there before. So we need to assess needs, strengths, goals, life history, and preferences. And I'd like to ask all of you kind of a trivia question, okay? I want to ask, what word is not there? And we tend to have that word on the care plan a lot. And I'll give you a hint. We used to have it more. Think of the first column on a care plan. What did we used to at least call it? What was the title? It has changed with point click care, which I think most of you use, but does anyone remember?
I think mine is called a daily activity evaluation,
Okay. All
the
right.
paper one that we use.
Well, think about the care plan though. The first column on the care plan. What's the first column typically called?
The need.
Okay.
The diagnosis.
Okay. What did you guys
Problem.
say? Okay.
First is problem.
Yeah.
Problem, the
Okay.
diagnosis.
Sublet. Hey, Sublet, you're ahead on a lot of things, but watch this. There is no mention of problems in this reg, which is a big win. See, we got a problem when we phrase everything as a problem. Particularly, like I come from the worldview of activities, like Brittany, and so we inherited this problem that everything should be worded as a problem. Do any of you remember? Like when I became an activity director years ago, the problem was everybody had the same problem. Resident has potential for social isolation. Isn't that sad? We made generic problems for everybody because we thought we were supposed to, and that is not what the reg has ever said. To be honest, who knows where that came from? Some of you know. Problem, goal, interventions. Where does that come from?
I'm having flashbacks to nursing school.
Thank you, Cynthia Prince. You win the prize. Now, it is not a dismissal to you beautiful nurses, not at all. Please don't take that negative. It kind of fits when there's a medical problem. There needs to be a goal and interventions to get there. But see, what happened was we brought that into nursing home care, even though we didn't have to. It's sad to me. Sorry, nurses, but I love showing that you have freedom. You do not have to do that. And I'm running out of time, so I got to go faster. Ready? So needs, Brittany, you mentioned needs. That's very good. Now, most care plans probably naturally identify needs, everyone. I don't think it's a big deal. Now, the same with strengths. Some people get really anxious, or what I want to say is focused on strengths. Oh, we got to have strengths. To be honest, I don't think we need to. Here's why. They show up naturally. If a person can walk, that gets in the care plan naturally, okay? Now, what I want to point out, life history is a new word. It replaces social history. That is good. Go with that. You know, in real life, nobody talks about their social history. And then we have goals. I'm going to tap into that here in a minute. That's big. And preferences. We now have the word preferences in all the regs. It's coming up on another slide, but it's like 207 times. So here's what I've learned to say. Let's start care planning preferences more than problems, and things will go better for everybody, to be honest. You probably know this, residents have the right to participate. It just used to say like in care planning, but did you know it now says in establishing the expected goals and outcomes? Okay, goals. And then if you think about it, whose goals are they anyway? It's their life. It should be their goals. And I want to recommend you start quoting people. You know, if a resident says, you know, I want to stay in my room and not go to any groups, honey, leave me alone. Guess what? There's power in quoting them. And the daughter can't argue. The surveyor can't argue with it. It takes pressure off your team. It's her life and it's her goal. Is anyone tired of making up goals for someone else? I know I was. And then don't ask the family. Sorry, Paula, I'm not going to ask you what do you think your mom should do. We need to help families guide us. What would your mom say she wants to do? And now in the CMS regs, with the new regs in 16, the residents' goals is there 153 times. So it can start to look like this. One time a person told me, well, I said, what are your goals for your life right now? She said, well, I've been thinking about that. That shocked me. And then she said, I want to help people. And because I'm crippled with arthritis, I figure the only way I can help people is with my voice. Isn't that cool? Talk about self-actualization, right? And all I said was, Pat, I bet there's lonely people down the hall. And you know what she said? Who? Give them to me. And so her care plan could read, I've agreed to visit so many people so often. We're trying to move the same way to ask people, what are your goals for your diabetes? What are your goals for your incontinence? And yes, you can't ask everyone with the dementia, but sometimes you know the answer without asking. So for instance, if I spit my green beans out, what did I just tell you? Amanda, what did I just tell you?
That you don't want to eat them.
Right. So don't dismiss your observations, everybody. You know people well, whether they can tell you words or not. And so just if you want, start moving in this direction of asking people what their goals are. We're supposed to. And I think I probably have to skip this, but we kind of just spoke to it, like when we're out of our routine, out of our how we do the day, it doesn't go so well. And so tap into that. Have fun, maybe with your teammates, like talk about it personally. It really drives things home when we first think of if it was us, and then to you know, start asking the people who live there. And then Amanda, I'd be curious to see what you think of this. When I became a mother and I watched my little girl start to eat differently than me, I first started to call her picky, and then I realized, what right do I have to call anybody picky? So beware of that, everyone. You know, like Amanda, maybe people call you picky, but you have food allergies, right? And you can't help it. And
My grandmother told me I'm spoiled when it comes to my food preferences.
Yeah, I just want to call that out. Like, I realized, are we being picky, or are these just our preferences? Good thing to think about. MDS, a reminder, it's minimum. I love saying, don't let the MDS box you in. Now, MDS does bring up preferences. I'm grateful. But are there more preferences than what we run into at Section F to somebody? And so here's some, you know, you could ask people what their daily pleasures are. That's a beautiful detail of a life. And then you could ask, what are your simple pleasures? They're actually two different things. So let's do this. Would one of you first, without me telling you exactly what it means, forgive me, I tend to do it like this. Would one of you please tell me, what is one of your simple pleasures?
Ice water.
Okay, ice water. Now, Amanda, what is one of your daily pleasures? And here's the thing, daily means that you make sure it happens every single day, no matter what.
That one shower.
Okay, that's what we're getting at. So like for me, I make sure coffee happens. I don't care what happens, right? It doesn't matter. Coffee's going to happen. Now, a simple pleasure might be taking a walk, but some days that doesn't happen. So those are two different pleasures you could all start asking people. And another neat thing is to learn some of those pleasures before they even move in. Imagine you moved in, Amanda, to the nursing home, and you said you can have caramel, right?
Right.
And let's say a variety of caramels were waiting for you. Oh, maybe with a big glass of ice water. How would you feel?
Happy.
Yeah, happy. All right. Maybe sometimes we need to really ask people, what are the most important relationships to you and how can we help you be connected? There's an administrator, everyone, in Florida who has all the family members of her residents in her phone. And she will say, Vera, let's call your son right now. Isn't that great? To really go after the relationships that are important to people. You could ask people, what are their pet peeves? Find out what bugs them. What a wonderful thing to know. Or what they're passionate about, causes. What do they love? What do they hate? Keep saying, what else? What else do we need to know about you? Here's where it's preferences 207 times in the regs. You know, we have a lot more regs now about honoring choice. And so preferences help you get there. I don't know if y'all know this, but at tag 692, which is assisted nutrition and hydration, preferences ends up at the IJ and actual harm levels of severity. That shocked me. So if you knew preferences and didn't honor them and someone lost the weight or had decline, it could be IJ or actual harm. You know, the new survey process is a lot about people's preferences and choices. And then isn't it ironic that if you don't know preferences, that could be a problem? So switch from identifying problems to identifying preferences, and probably you'll have fewer problems. I just love that. Quality of life tends to get missed, everyone. The MDS does not trigger quality of life on the care plan. It does not trigger meaning and purpose. It does not trigger talking to people about how you're doing with boredom or loneliness or helplessness. By the way, those are the 3 plagues of institutionalization. That's what the Eden Alternative calls them. Notice the word plague. Isn't that ironic? Our whole lives have been upside down because of an epidemic, a pandemic, and yet these plagues have been around since the beginning of nursing home time. Now, this is an example of seeing some detail, but also 2 different things I'm showing you here. This is a narrative style care plan. Notice there are no columns. There's no regs that say you must have columns. I'm just sharing this with you for fun. It's also an example of an I care plan. And it's a great example that the care plan always starts first with the life history, not the social history. And this is very beautiful and very honoring when you start with who I am, instead of starting just boom with my incontinence or something. And so I won't read it all to you, but I want to show you something in here. Born in Minnesota, moved west, family managed the farm, graduated from high school, moved to the big city. I went to work as a model and enjoyed my career for 5 years. Then I moved, then I worked at a department store, got married, my kids, etc. Okay. the idea of being a model is going to come up again. I just want to show you a couple of things from this care plan. It's much longer. I don't have time, but oh, look at this. Under the section on communication and memory, it says, if you would like some advice on beauty, I love to share my opinion, especially on how you should do your hair or what clothes look good on you, because being a model all those years has really paid off. Isn't that great? And now imagine nobody told you she was a model. Nobody told you she likes to criticize how you look. How do we react when someone tells us, you don't look so good in those pants, honey? Isn't that important? If we can, yeah, Brittany.
She seems like fun, dude. I want to
Yeah.
hang out with her.
Yeah, me too, Brittany. But I realized even I would get, I mean, wouldn't most of us, I know I would get defensive if someone's commenting on how I look. All the more reason to get ahead of these things. Share with your team members, this is who she is. It is what she might do. Don't be alarmed. Have fun with it. You know, ask her opinion of how you look. Honor this about her. And then just a couple other thoughts I'd point out here in the bold. The thing that makes me happiest is when I feel in control of things going on around me. I think that's going to be all of us. How about you? Offer choices in my care. I like to have things done my way, of course, so follow my directions. Yes. And then some other things, like if I don't even put my makeup on, that means that something's off with me. And then just a couple more. Look at this. This woman, I think her name's Anne, is the opposite of you, Amanda. She prefers fresh water without ice. And isn't it funny how that's become a thing? You know, 20 years ago, we weren't asking each other, do you want ice with that or no ice? You know, now on the airplane, it's like a whole other level of choices, right? And then another really cool one. By the way, we're moving away from using the term ambulation. It's very vague. Ambulation actually means to move. It doesn't mean to walk. So if you mean walk, I encourage y'all to consider saying what we mean. Anyway, regarding her walking, she says, if you perch a cockatiel on my walker when we are going down the hall, I enjoy the exercises more. This way, I'm taking the bird for a walk too. Oh, isn't that marvelous? I've never liked showers. Good thing to know. That's just a few things. This is a resource if you want to learn more about that. The home that did those gives samples and their policies and procedures, and we show how regs support this, and it comes with a sample visual care plan, which is pretty powerful. And then I don't have time, but I want to just talk about details of people's lives. If you were to start asking people about these 7 domains of well-being, one of them is joy. And wouldn't it be cool to start saying, what brings you joy? Just think of the details. Or what is your identity? What do we don't know about you? We don't want to get to the funeral and learn things we didn't know. Kind of opposite from your story, Jen, but that typically is how that goes. And then I want to show you at tag 679, the activities tag. Most people don't realize that CMS tucked the Eden domains of well-being into the intent of the activities requirement to create opportunities for each resident to have a meaningful life by supporting their domains of well-being. And there they are: security, autonomy, growth, connectedness, identity, joy, and meaning. If you like this idea, we could do a webinar on all those 7 domains, but I like to let you know it's now in reg. It's a good idea, and it would help you for sure learn people's details of their life. And growth was one of those domains, and the Eden Alternative also encourages their homes to consider calling care plans growth plans. And wow, does that change things? It's not just about care, it's also about who you are. How do you want to continue growing? We're supposed to be growing and developing at all ages, and that would be a way to help your team talk in that language. They also call employee evaluations growth plans, which I think is beautiful. Now, on these photos, everyone, this is kind of like a depiction of let's say, a perfect care plan. But if it's all about care, what's missing? You could tell me. There's something missing if it's just care.
Their preferences.
And the way I like to say it is life. And so a colleague of mine did this, and she points out, what is all that great care? You know, what should it be supporting? And thank you, Amanda. We've said a lot about preferences. And another way to think of it is like, okay, how do you want to live your life today? And let's say she wants to watch the birds. So all the care supports the life that someone wants to lead. And look at the language, everyone. You know, someone moves out of their home and maybe they go to, what's it called? Independent what? Somebody tell me.
Living.
Oh boy, and then they need
Living.
assistance. And what's it called? Assisted what, Patty?
Living.
And then they need care. And what's it called?
Long-term care.
Long-term care. You got to say it like that, Patty. Just kidding.
Long-term care.
Look at her go. Now, someone did this years ago. Watch this, everyone. This is powerful. Ready? Where did the living go? You realize even in our language, the title of the place, we dropped the word living. So you don't have to. I'm not telling you what to say, but our movement just draws this out. You are welcome to talk more about the life and the living that the person's doing than only care. We get sucked into the language of care, person-centered care. You know, when CMS put person-centered care in the regs, it was already outdated. I don't know if you know that. The movement had already started calling it person-directed care. It's stronger than centered care. And then we also were moving away from care to make this point to try to focus on the life and the living. So this is kind of new. It's kind of weird. Brace yourselves. But where I live, I saw a billboard and it said youth-centered care. I'm like, huh, no one has said that in our movement, youth-centered care. And so maybe, what if we apply what we're learning, you directed care? What if you guys offer you directed care to support you directed living? It's just fun. I'm not telling anyone what to do, but sometimes words make a point a lot better than other words. And then I also wanted to share with you, as far as the details of people's lives, I got to do an audit of all the activity assessments, initial assessments in a particular nursing home once. And I have I meant for this to come in as a question, but one of the questions was, what do you wish you could have done more in your life? What would some of you say?
Traveled.
And Brittany, you're not seeing the slide, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry.
Because no, that's my point, you guys. Brittany doesn't see the slide. It came on my slide, Brittany, before I meant for it to. And guess what? This is what most of us say. And after I looked at that audit and saw almost every person said travel, travel. Guess what we all could be doing more of? Helping the people who live where you work to travel more. And how can we do that? One way is travel books. If you can see this just for fun, I'm showing something. How many of you go somewhere, you travel somewhere and you buy the book? Have any of you ever done that? You're at the airport. Oh, I got to buy the book and take more photos home with me. Anybody?
We do that.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
And guess where all the books end up? You can't keep all the books forever. Guess where they end up? Guess where I bought this?
Oh,
At a yard sale.
Yeah. And at the thrift stores. And so this is my tip from me to you. If most people want to travel more, get the travel books. Have families bring them. Do more things to travel. You know, give yourselves a whole week. Travel to, not a whole week, I mean a month. Like every month could be traveling somewhere. And food revolves around it. And a day to dress that way. And the history and the trivia, you know what to do. But I don't hear many of us talk about using travel as a way to enjoy and do things differently. So I'm about done here. Here's another resource if you're interested that we did a while back, really getting to know people better, as well as a much more thorough, we called it a meaningful activity assessment. And then hopefully you're joining our tour here of trying to change language. And I hear a lot of you doing it. We're trying to talk about the home that people live in, or community, more than facility, or the individual, the person, or the neighbor instead of the patient or resident. Team member is stronger than staff. Talking about people's concerns or ideas is more positive than grievance. Not labeling people rather than a complainer or a difficult person. No, we have a philosophy. We want to know what can be better. We want to know what you think. And then today we talked about maybe tossing around the idea of discovery instead of assessment. This is a free resource, The Power of Language to Create Culture. If you want it, there's the website. If you want the handout, let me know. I was working on it till this started. I also have a shorter language handout. If you want that, let me know. Does anyone have any questions or comments? I'm sorry, I know we're kind of at time. I think what I'll do here is just remind you, the Wyoming Culture Change Coalition has two big goals for Wyoming. We could use your help. That everyone working in a Wyoming nursing home learns about culture change. So I record these. You're welcome to pass them on to everyone. Everyone's invited to these webinars. And another big goal is that we stop waking people up in Wyoming. Do you guys realize you could be the first state, the whole state, to not wake people up? That would be amazing. And we just decided what our next webinar will be next month on June 24th, trauma-informed care using the validation method. This is techniques that really work with people that help you know how to interact without having to lie, no therapeutic lying, or only redirecting. They're so good. And last but not least, this is finally out, official. We have 5 culture change workshops taking place the first week of August. Please consider coming to one or all of them. So they were designed that one of them is closer to you than all the other 4, but some teams are deciding to purposely send someone else to go and get them all covered. That is so cool. So you're welcome to do that. Mission at Castle Rock has been an Eden home for 7 years. We're trying to honor that fact and learn from them. And both the workshop and the visit to their home is at their location. And then Thank You Morningstar is going to be a location to visit, but then there's a building in town. The Frank B. Wise building is where the workshop is. Sheridan Greenhouses are going to be a site visit, and the workshops at the Ramada. Life Care Casper. Oh, I need to fix this. Sorry, my fault. Casper is the visit, and the Clarion is where the workshop will be. Life Care of Cheyenne is a visit, and then right next door they have another building, and it's called the Garden Level, is where that workshop will be. And if you want the flyer, let me know. And on the flyer, we're trying a Google Doc that you would register through a Google document. Woo, we did it. Does anybody have anything to share?
If you aren't going to sign up, you should, because it's going to be so fun.
Thank you. Brittany's on the committee, on our coalition steering committee. So is Patty Hall. Thank you all very much for being a part of today.
Carmen, can you send?
Yeah.
This is Amanda. Can you send me the handouts?
Yep.
And
Yep.
If you'll send us the brochure too, I'll get it to Jess.
Yep.
This morning I sent it to all the administrators.
Woohoo. Go Patty Hall.
So I wish I had social workers and activity directors emails instead of just the administrators, because they probably just see my email and say, oh no, let's just keep going.
Well,
so I wish I had the activities, all the activity directors and the social workers emails, but
well, I bet someone does. Brittany, could you help Patty connect with at least, is it the Wyoming activity?
Yes.
Group?
Patty, I have your email. On Tuesday when I get back, I will send you an email with everybody, or with Dawn Wehrman. She's the president of WACA, and she can get you their mailing list.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you. And give me feedback if you do anything different to learn details of people's lives. I'd love to hear. And
Carmen, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, you can.
Are you sending because I know these are recorded, are you sending them automatically to our lead? Some of the team members have said they'd want to watch them, like just now. Jen said she'd love to be able to go through it again and kind of capture parts of it. And we would also love the handouts. Those of you that are in the intensive project, you get everything from me automatically. So I will be sending that. You bet. Okay, perfect.
You bet. All right.
Thank you.
Laura, April, everyone, Amanda, Maggie, Brittany, Cindy, Patty.
Thank you.
Matea. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Carmen.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Keep up the great work.